Hi there, my name is Jameson. I run the J the PTA channel on YouTube. This whole YouTube thing is a little new to me. Right now, my camera is not working on my computer, so I'm shooting this on my phone. So sorry for the bad quality. I wanted to talk really briefly about passing the state licensure exam, the PTA board exam, and what my method was for doing that. For a little background, I'm a uh, physical therapy assistant graduate from Whatcom Community College in Bellingham, Washington. Um, I did the hybrid program, so I did part of my time online and part of my time lab classes 1 weekend a month for the better part of 2.5 years or so. But and I was a really good student. I really pursued knowledge pretty diligently. I started to not pursue the grade so much and instead pursued the knowledge, because if you pursue the grade, it doesn't really help you very well, or it doesn't help you very much. It stunts your ability to understand the kinesiology and the mechanics and the science that goes into our profession. Um, so I was asked to kind of share my thoughts on how I studied for the board exam because I was a pretty good student. But the thing that really freaked me out after graduation was I didn't really know how to study for the board exam. And, I'd heard of all these things like score builders and the Pete test, and there's several other ones out there, and I just didn't really know where to go. So I did score builders, and while score builders is good, it didn't really work for me. And that's not taking anything away from score builders. I think what they do is brilliant, but I personally didn't benefit from it. I started getting overwhelmed by how much information there was. I didn't really know where to start. So I came up with my own method on doing this, and maybe my method will work for you, maybe it doesn't. So what I did is I would take my Pete test. I took one Pete test, and it's just a retired board exam, and you can buy them on the FSBPT website. Um, and I've heard it said that it's the best predictor of if you will pass or not, and I've got to say that is 100% accurate. So the board exam is out of 800, and you need at least a 600 to pass. Um, and so for the first two tests that I took, I did not pass, and on my last one, I did. My last one, I got a 657. Guess what I got on my actual board exam? A 657. So when they say it is the best predictor of whether you will pass or not, they are not joking. And it doesn't matter if you got a 601 or if you got an 800. Passing is passing. So don't get caught up on, oh, like I only got a 601, I barely passed. Doesn't matter, you passed. Um but what did I do in between the first Pete test that I took where I got like a 542 and my last one where I got 657? What I did is I took the questions that they had and I started going through because it will tell you which ones you missed and the reasoning why you missed them. And so I took the questions and I copied the concept of the questions, what the question was looking like, what it was asking me, not word for word. I didn't copy it or plagiarize it, but I asked or I started writing down every single one, and then I gave the reasoning for why the answer was. And then I uploaded every single one I missed section by section, where whether it was musculoskeletal or cardiovascular and pulmonary, whether it was diagnoses or whether it was you name it, pathologies, pelvic floor dysfunction, endocrine, metabolic, any of those. Whatever section, I would group those together, and then I uploaded them to AI. And in my particular case, I used Chat GPT, and I would give it the prompt. Here are all the questions that I missed on my practice board exam. I want you to go through and analyze my weaknesses and recognize patterns on where I messed up. Recognize patterns on what I need to work on. And then it would filter all the questions that I missed. And it would say, you're weak in this concept, and this concept, and this concept, and this concept. And so I would go back and I would look through my books, and start studying through those. And a couple times I would ask Chat GPT, hey, I'm having trouble making sense of this. Can you help me make sense of it? And I would do that. And once I understood a subject, like for instance, going through neuro and understanding like ascending and descending pain, if you're struggling with that, you could ask it to quiz you on that until you understand it and until you get it. And then what I would do is I would make these giant blocks of quizzes, and I would quiz myself relentlessly on those. And then when I got a couple subjects like cardiopulm, neuro, musculoskeletal, when I got a couple of them, like a couple of my weak spots done, I would mix up all the questions and say, okay, give me a 200 question multiple choice test and ask me 20 questions at a time and save the results for the end. And then I would go through those tests, and whenever I got a question wrong, it would save it, and then it would explain it to me in the end why I got that stuff wrong. And like one of the things that I really needed to work on was gait deficiencies and what muscles were being affected, and particularly in prosthetics. If the prosthetic is too long or too short, I don't know why, but my brain just was having a real hard time understanding those. And so I got through all of it. And the reason why I did that with the testing and why I did it so long, the board exam is 180 multiple choice questions. I would ask it to do 200 to 250 questions. And the reason I did that is so that I would, kind of like working out, you like when you're trying to improve your cardio, you want to push a little bit further than what you're going to do in competition. And I feel it should be the same way with when you're studying for an exam like this, where, okay, I'm so used to doing 250 questions, 180, I'm not going to get test fatigue that way. And so I would just relentlessly test myself over and over and over again. So, all that to say, use your discretion, because AI can make mistakes, and I had to call it out a couple times on it making mistakes and argue with it. Um, so use your discretion in that. It is a great tool, but it is a tool. It is not going to magically figure out everything for you. It is great for administrating tests, and when it is teaching you stuff, you have to use your discretion. So that is my only caveat to the method that I used. Um, Other than that, there are plenty of other resources out there. If this one doesn't work for you, use something else. But it's whatever works for you, whatever you're seeing the results. And the other thing I would really, really, really strongly recommend, take your first PET test at least 90 days out after you graduate, 90 days out from your test, and then take another one maybe 3 months out, then take another one a month out. And then I would, if you can afford it, I think they're like $90 per test, so I get it if you can't, but I would buy another one 2 weeks in advance and really hone in on where you're weak. The other thing is focus on the big picture items. Um, Typically, whenever I was taking my Pete tests, endocrine and metabolic, they weren't big sections. So I would study them to basically, if I came across it, okay, it's free points if I come across this, but I'm not going to spend the majority of my time there. I'm going to spend the majority of my time in the big sections like neuro, musculoskeletal, and I cannot stress this enough. Study up on cardiopulmonary. Cardiopulmonary is a big one, and um, I I feel like you kind of go over the basics in school, um, and there are more to it. I mean, cardiopulmonary is also another one that I really struggled with, so maybe I'm just saying that because of this. Um, but really study it because you're going to get questions that if you haven't studied it, you will fail it. They will throw you for a loop, and it can be very very difficult. Um, and then the other thing too is start doing some of the things. You know, if you're struggling with gait deficiency, try and act it out, play it out, see what it would be like. If you have a skeleton and you're trying to go over your bony landmarks and your origins and insertions, if that's where you struggle with, go for that. It's worth investing the $120 or I think you can get them cheaper than that for a full size skeleton. Um, and other than that, the other piece of advice I would have is um, manage your stress well, because these kind of board exams, they can be very stressful, and leading up to it, that can really get in your head. Don't focus so much on the questions that you miss and become completely distraught because you missed a cardiopulmonary question. Just go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this part isn't working for me. I need to figure it out. And don't shy away from your weaknesses either, because that's just going to get you in trouble. A lot of us don't want to work on the things that are hard or that we don't particularly enjoy or that are boring, but that's going to bite you in the butt really hard um, if you don't make it a priority. Um, your strengths should be strengths and your weaknesses should be worked on. So that's my advice. That's what worked for me. I know people who didn't do this method who got 700s plus, which is great. I mean, they passed, they got a really high score. But at the end of the day, no one cares what your score was. They just care if you passed the exam. So don't get don't get caught up on the score. Don't get caught up um, on the performance of it. Just get caught up on if you're gonna pass or not, and if you understand the concepts or not. The other thing I'll say is, um, with your Pete, it's said that what your score is, your highest score in the Pete, is roughly about 30 points, give or take what your board exam score will be. And so like 657 and 657, that's pretty accurate. But I felt comfortable when I got a 657 because it put me in that 30-point margin where I was kind of I felt safe, even though it's not a guarantee. Where if I got 30 points less than that, 627. Got 30 points higher than that, 687. Nice, I still pass. So if you got something where it's like a 615, there's a good chance you'll pass, but it's still something I would work on improving. Um, so yeah, those are my thoughts, and I hope that helps.